All right, good Tuesday to you. In this video, we're going to quickly go through what's going on with Helene, the potential track of the storm, and how it may not just affect the coast, but maybe some really strong winds inland. So we're going to take a look at all of that, plus torrential rains. This could be a huge problem, but let's start with why this storm is different than really anything that we normally see, because you've got not just this trough, but this is an upper low, guys. This is a strong cutoff area of low pressure in the mid and upper levels, and it's sort of spinning like this, if you will. And in fact, if you go ahead in time, this storm's going to really get cut off from your main jet stream, which is here, right? That's what's driving everything. So this thing is down here doing its own thing, basically spinning like this. And I think as Helene moves out of the Gulf, that's why your forecasts are wanting to pull it back to the west. And this upper low is also going to get pulled down around Helene as they dance around each other. So this is a really unique setup. This is the overnight European showing that setup. Look at them dance here, just spinning around each other. Pretty wild to see that that effect here across the lower 48 as the GFS also, back here's your upper low, giving the idea that this will pivot around Helene and Helene will pivot around the upper low. So that's why the forecast is for Helene to come in and swing back to the west. Maybe worst case scenario for some areas too. And I'll tell you what, I'm a little concerned here about the southern Appalachians, because the potential threats with this are not just along the coast. We could see threats pretty far inland with it too. Here are again your spaghetti plots. The idea is still bringing it right here. The official forecast from the National Hurricane Center is still for this to become a major hurricane in the Gulf with rapid intensification once it clears the Yucatan Peninsula. Are there some caveats in this? Yes, there are, because you got to remember, you've got some land mass here. First of all, some dry air across this could get entrained to this, cause it to be weaker than forecast. So the models are trying to get a grapple on all of this still. We are expected this still to become a major hurricane once it gets into the Gulf of Mexico over really deep, warm waters. And because of that, we've got hurricane watches up now for Florida. I wouldn't be surprised if these get expanded. Go to the National Hurricane Center for the official latest forecast and also the official numbers. So I don't know when you're watching this. It could be old data, but this is what we're looking at now as of Tuesday morning. Okay. Let's talk about the again, the GFS track. I'll show you that really quickly too. That is the 6Z run, which, I don't know, sometimes you want to throw that out with the bathwater, so to speak. This is the overnight run of the GFS2. It might arguably be very similar to what we're looking like on the 6Z, and then we'll take a look at the wind field, because this really caught my eye this morning. Now, I want to show you something about Florida, and I want to talk about this. Now, you're going to get friction here on the east side of this. Okay, so right here along the coast of Florida, the question is, does that friction cause the storm to veer inland a little bit? I talked about this yesterday. If you've ever been driving down the road and you drive off the road a little bit, you get that friction, or maybe even the rumble strips on the highway. That friction will sometimes pull your car over a little bit. I had a professor once in one of my meteorology classes. We were talking about tropical meteorology and how that can sometimes happen here with Florida. Some of these hurricanes get pulled, if you will, just a little bit to the right. We kind of saw that last night. So don't get hung up where this center of circulation goes, because either way, we're talking about damaging winds here along the east side of Florida with this potential track, and then inland. And then look what happens. It rapidly accelerates too. It begins to speed up. So now we're heading into Friday morning. We've got wind gusts still, hurricane gusts possible from Macon up to Augusta, potentially all the way as far north as Columbia, South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, Spartanburg, and then now you've got the terrain of the Appalachian Mountains here. Look at this fetch. This is a perpendicular fetch of low-level flow. That is a disaster for rain. You've got that upslope component going here. The higher elevations, winds could gust 50, maybe even 60 miles per hour. That's what the model data showed. This is model data, not an official forecast, but I want to show you that potential that is on the table. And now we're also looking at wind gust 40 to 50 across the Tennessee Valley. And finally, it starts to weaken. Right now, we've slowed this thing down with the friction of the land. It's lost its energy source, so now it's more of just a big rainmaker. And speaking of the rain, look at these numbers. These are official forecast numbers out from the Weather Prediction Center. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit closer into the southeast. And there's that component that I'm a little bit worried about here, especially with that upslope flow. And that upslope, if you think about it, really starts here in the Piedmont, and things just go uphill from here. So you're just lifting that air, squeezing out the moisture. So rainfall amounts could exceed 10 inches in some of these areas, according to this map. that looks pretty rough. So we're not looking at just flooding rains here along the path of the storm, but maybe even just to the east of it. And that would be devastating here with that track. Let's just hope that doesn't happen. Let's talk about today too. I mean, this is listen, you'll see some meteorologists that love this stuff. I hate it. I'm just going to tell you, I do not like these things, these events, because I know the devastation that they can bring. Not good at all. Terrible. All right, let's talk about what's going on today, because there could be some severe weather too from Ohio. This may be a little bit further south than yesterday. You're looking at the data from the Storm Prediction Center, really leaving out northern Ohio, pushing things down now a little bit further south into not just the Appalachians, but back into Kentucky, even as far west as Nashville and as far east maybe as Charlotte. I would argue Greensboro, maybe even Raleigh, with some tornadoes possible in some areas that we normally don't see them, right? Maybe West Virginia and Kentucky. When I was doing some work in West Virginia, we would say that West Virginia is where tornadoes come to die. So there are some things that you'll be fighting here, the terrain with the cooler air here, but still enough shear in the atmosphere that some of these could get strong heading into the afternoon. As we look at the future radar, timing this out, we're talking about 3, 4, 5 o'clock. You know, I don't know that we leave out northeast Ohio here, really from Canton down all the way to Chillicothe, and then once you get into West Virginia, Kentucky, all bets are off, especially as we head into the evening hours. As these storms continue to work off to the east, we'll see that severe weather. And that's all associated, again, with that upper low that's back here that will eventually be driving Helene. So here we are now heading into this afternoon back here. So out ahead of this, that's the severe weather that we're looking at today. All right, let's go back to the west a little bit, and then we'll head back to the east, and we'll take a look at the rest of the week and the rest of the country. We've got some showers that will be moving in heading into Wednesday, maybe some high mountain snow, and that will continue as we head through the week, at least Thursday and Friday up into the Canadian Rockies. Now, let's take Helene. Let's put things into motion. We've got some showers also here into the northeast. I don't want to leave you out. You may actually pick up some of that moisture, at least maybe not directly, but indirectly, as everything eventually moves out. That upper low still spinning here, cut off from the flow. I don't like the way that looks. So if your flow is up here, your jet stream that is, what's going to kick this out? Really nothing. You've got a ridge here, if anything, and the upper low just spinning here, and that could be problematic. Look at this. We're still dealing with moisture from Helene by next Wednesday, if you believe this. So flooding is a problem, I think, and it's something that has to be watched. Here's the official forecast again. We showed that already, but yeah, it could be a real problem over the next several days for many areas. All right, if you enjoyed this, I hope you'll subscribe. I do these types of videos. Also love winter forecasting, which is a big deal, right? It affects a lot of people. I put out some updates on that. If you've not seen it, check it out. It's right here. I'll see you there.